But since it ends up involved with many other things, so that's why, as a general rule, yeshivas don't allow. There's another element, that's the alcohol part of it, which is it's a smaller percent, but it does have an effect, and it's another issue. B'chlal, for people to get high is not a healthy thing. Whoever was here today can understand, or here or there. So any kind of being high is a problem always. But it's a smaller part of it, getting the alcohol part. It's more the whole, how gufa that it's associated with all the goyishkeit is because of the alcohol. But the ikar is the goyishkeit of it.
Am I allowed to be high on Coke?
What?
Like not Coca-Cola?
Yeah.
Am I allowed to be high on it?
Are you allowed to be high on it?
Yeah.
Chemically, it doesn't really make you on a high, so.
Regarding
Regarding the gzeira, as far as I know, it's only on mashke and even wine, but not on beer. So I don't think there's a gzeira on beer. I never heard that.
More than 4 wine?
Yeah, the Rebbe said also on wine, not that more than 4.
100% wine.
In my times, it wasn't such a light wine. Well, wine was like 12, 13%.
Rashi wine now, you're not supposed to have
I doubt it. When the Rebbe started the gzeira, as far as I understand, it was on wine as well, wine and mashke. But I never heard of beer. Maybe I'm making a mistake. You have to look in the sicher. The sicher that they made the gzeira.
How do you do other places?
So versteht sich. Even drinking a cup of wine is more than a revis. It's also an issue. The gzeira can't have more than a revis. So obviously, the Rebbe said for kiddush and other cases you're allowed to. But other than that, you should. You want to see the details of the gzeira? It's in Parashas Shmini, Tavshin Chav Gimel. That's where the Rebbe made the gzeira. Those are the details are there. But Pashtus beer is not part of the gzeira, but it's associated with goyishkeit. That's the problem with many other things, and that's why it shouldn't be done.
You said Derech Klal Yeshiva doesn't let Bachram have beer. Does that mean there are exceptions?
And there's a Shalom Zocher, and someone takes a little, says l'chaim on the beer, he's not going to get a knas for it. But if a person starts shloking beer on a chanan, that's an issue. Yeah, then all will get involved. Or Bachram are buying beer, having beer stamos, they're drinking stamos, that's a problem. Another problem a lot of Bachram don't realize is that some Bachram consider themselves to be very mature. But everyone considers themselves mature, but everybody is not mature. So a lot of times there's other guys around, that are not as mature as you, they're going to start taking the alcohol and taking it out of proportion. Today, the guys drank today, so some of them are little kids that are not shaykh for it, and everyone saw the results. So it's another episode. The older guys were saying, but I drank it, I didn't do anything wild. So that's another factor that Bachram have to realize. Where in yeshiva, there's other people around, so the policy is not just to keep everyone on the same, it's also other people shouldn't get affected by it.
You said if you pour the beer into a cup,
In theory, if you put it into the cup, it's also less chomer. There's a bacher here many years ago, today's a young man with kids, so he's very proud of himself that for a whole year he drank beer in Zal every day. He got himself a mug with a cover on it, and he had beer inside, and he drink every day beer in front of our eyes, and we never caught him. So he did it. It's not like you're getting anybody, but the Sheni, he drank it as a drink. He wasn't making a whole drink about it. Wasn't drink with the whole atmosphere that it came with. He liked the drink and he got it, and that's it. It's not in that sense. It's not the end of the world. If I would catch it, I would stop it. Yeah, but I'm not so upset at him. Why didn't the Rebbe cough in his elbow, only his hand?
Coronavirus.
Huh? Coronavirus. First of all, I'm not sure exactly if the Rebbe never coughed like this, always like this, but any event, all the Rebbe's actions by Chassidim are it's all a reflection of Lamayla. Even though some people don't like hearing this, but by a regular chassid, he'll say that when the Rebbe makes with his hand like this, the Rebbe is making this left hand, it's connected Vura Datzilus. His right hand is connected Chesed Datzilus. And there are people like Rabbi Vogel, when they farbrein, they say how many times the Rebbe went like this and how many times like that. So a lot of Bachim don't like listening to that, but most Chassidim believe that yes, every number, everything is a cheshbon, it's all these reasons behind it all. So every tnu of the Rebbe is definitely als eizge cheshbon. We have in the summer here Rabbi Oberlander from Muncie, Bashir. So he said as a Bacher, he was very into halacha, he used to watch the Rebbe the whole time. He said the Rebbe was a walking Shulchan Aruch. Every tnu was all, he was able to learn the Rebbe, just like this and like that, he was able to learn every little prat. So by Chassidim, it's pasha that everything has a cheshbon. What's the cheshbon over here? I don't know. When you're coughing b'chlal, it's polite to cover yourself. It shouldn't spread out. Why dafka? You're in tzvara, you make like this. It's less. You don't touch things afterwards. But I don't know. I don't know a reason for it. I never heard a reason. If anybody has a reason, I'll it. But with pashas, we just believe that whatever the Rebbe is doing is perfect, whether we understand or not. Huh?
Hygiene, basic hygiene.
The question was why not like this?
Oh, you didn't do like that. You didn't. It
seems like this more often. Yeah. How do we know that any time or every time the Rebbe spoke about the Frierdiker Rebbe, about Chaim Nitzchim and being Mashiach, he was also referring to himself? So there's a Maimer V'atat Tetzaveh where the Rebbe speaks about that the Frierdiker Rebbe said about Mordechai And Mordechai B'Deirei K'Moshe B'Deirei. And the Frierdiker Rebbe explains what's unique about Mordechai HaTzadik versus all other tzaddikim. Then the Rebbe brings a Mishnah. The Mishnah says, there's a lashon in Mishnah, it's called Din V'Cheshbon. Din V'Cheshbon means report. You make a cheshbon and a din. It says when a person passes away, they make a cheshbon of what he does, and then they give him a din. But the expression is din v'cheshbon. First you pass him din, then you make the cheshbon. So it's explained that what happens l'mayla, and it's brought down Nach, also a similar story, that when a person is brought up l'mayla, what they do is they ask him a shayla about a certain behavior. And they ask him what he thinks. And he makes up psak din. He paskins that person. I think this is the punishment this person deserves. And then they tell him, we're making a cheshbon on you, and based on what you're saying, based on what you said, the cheshbon is you deserve the same kind of psak. So the Rebbe said, when the Frierdiker Rebbe said about Mordechai HaTzadik, that he's K'Moshe B'Deirei, he said he explained it also. So now we're going to make the cheshbon that the Frierdiker Rebbe said about Mordechai HaTzadik, and we can see that the same applies to the Frierdiker Rebbe. So that's the simple explanation, that whenever the Rebbe spoke about the Frierdiker Rebbe, the things that he said about the Rebbe, so us Chassidim of the Rebbe make the same cheshbon and say, the Rebbe made the din and said it about the Frierdiker Rebbe, and we can make the cheshbon applies to the Rebbe as well. That's B'derech Klal the Hasbaras Advarim, and that's been all the generations always, whenever one of the Rebbeim spoke about a previous Rebbe, so the Chassidim of that Rebbe always understood that the same applies to that Rebbe himself, and the same thing applies to our generation. Are there any nevuas from Nach that happened in the last 50 years? So, I don't know. It could be. B'derech Klal, it's many things that happen. People find it a Muslim. There's a guy, Rabbi Wolf, in California. He puts out a lot of videos on Q&As and different things. And a lot of times he connects current events to different things that it says in Torah B'chlal. So he might find connections, but I have never heard. I mean, there are many things in B'chlal, general concepts that so speaks about in Tanakh, which you can find. But any major kind of event, okay, the Twin Towers, for example, I never heard anybody showing that it clearly says in the Pasuk, this is going to happen, then it happened. But the Pashas, everything is Muhammad in Torah. Huh?
Codes.
Yeah, but the codes are not so reliable. The codes are all hashar.
It's about Mechamas Geiga Magei.
Huh? That's a whole big discussion. What is Mechamas Geiga Magin? How it works? Someone put that in Q&A. I'm in the middle of doing research on it to put together a whole thing. You could touch that on. No one knows for sure if that's what it's counted.
People say the go for it, people say the Quran.
No, but you can say what you want, but no one knows for sure that it's coming from. But Tzaddik comes and says that the Navi is speaking about Kach v'Kach, then we know. Muhammad, when he came out, so the Tzaddikim said that this is referring, this psukim that speak clearly, there's a certain pasuk, it's referring to, it's clearly the Navi is speaking about it. So when the Tzaddikim said that this is what the Navi meant, fine, but today when people come with their own ideas, it's nice to learn, it's nice to see, a lot of times it fits very beautifully, but to say that for a fact, I know that this is what the Navi meant, I don't know if anyone can say that today.
We haven't talked about it, no?
About what?
Like the current word go for it.
The chita to charveisam leitim, the only thing, yeah. The chita charveisam the Rebbe
No, but
says.
doesn't he compare the go for?
It's a medrash Yalkut Shimoni. It's not a Navi in Tanakh. If anything, the chita to charveisam leitim is a pasuk where the Rebbe says that the UN made a decision to try to do more funding towards peace instead of for war. That the Rebbe Taka said, yeah. So that's Taka something which the Rebbe spoke about. If a guy learns Torah, does he get schar? So there's a Gemara in Avodah Zarah, Gimel Amud Aleph. It also says it in Bava Kama, the Lamed Ches Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, Hoyer Rabbi Meir Omer, Minayin Shafilu Koyin Gadol V'Eisek B'Torah. I'm sorry. Shafilu Ovid Kechavim V'Eisek B'Torah. Shu Kegoyin Gadol. How do you know that even a guy that learns Torah is greater than a Koyin Gadol? Back to you. Talmud Loimar Asher Yasa Eisam Hadam V'Chai Behem. And a person that does chai gets chai. Any person that's involved in Torah, and even if a guy that learns Torah is like a kohen gadol. He doesn't get as much schar as someone that's commanded to learn Torah, but someone that's commanded, but he also gets a big amount of schar. This is what the Gemara says. And Teves adds, we're only talking about the Torah of the Sheva mitzvahs. So a guy that learns what he's not supposed to learn is chayav misa, but he learns what he is supposed to learn, he can even reach a schar more than the kohen gadol. So that's the answer. In short, that there is a schar, but only for the person who's allowed to. Huh?
What if the kohen gadol also learns Torah?
Then obviously he'll be even better than him. can you listen to non-Jewish instrumental music? No words. Oh, no, another question, the same thing. Is classical music considered Goyish music? So this question comes up, and I did some research on it. I asked a whole bunch of people. I got a lot of different answers. In Svara, mitzad, the way it's always explained in the Sikhs about music, in Svara it would seem that classical music is just as bad as regular non-Jewish music, as regular what we have today, all the stam, so to speak, Goyish music, because the word is that a Goy is composing it, and a Goy is klipas atmeis, and when he's composing music, is coming from his nefesh, and when you listen to that music, you sing that music, you're connecting to his nefesh, which is klipas atmeis. So the simple assumption would be, mitzad that svara is that classical music is just as bad as non-Jewish music, regular non-Jewish music. However, there are numerous stories of big chassidim, the fi'arach big chassidim, frume yidden, and they listened to Goyish, they listened to classical music. There's even a story of a sofer, a chosh of a sofer, that when he would write, he would also listen to classical music, or he would check, and he was a chassidish that everyone trusted him 100%. And there's another story that I heard just now also, and I just verified, it's written on different places, that the Rebbe Rashab, one of the times he was traveling, so he stayed in a hotel, and in the room next to him, there was a violinist that was playing, a Goyish violinist, and he was practicing for his show. Okay.
Someone died.
Huh?
בטוח מישהו בעולם ההוא. Someone.
So the Rebbe Rashab was listening to this guy playing the piece, and he said that he skipped a 16th. You understand? He skipped the 16th. I don't know what that means, but basically it's a very, very subtle note that most people won't even notice, and it's very hard